just when we think we're out, you all pull us back in. The mining profession journey has been one of the most collaborative in all of Star Citizen, with no shortage of player feedback and game systems that have been designed for flexibility and iteration. The upcoming Alpha 319 is set to bring with it a whole host of fixes and evolutions to improve the ways that players make their fortunes in the future.
Yeah, so the last time we said that we don't do anything about mining anymore and we leave it at rest. I think it was even when we introduced the mining gadget, so it was quite a while ago. And yeah, well, here we are, sitting here again and explaining to you why we actually had to retouch or wanted to take mining to the next level. So here we are, and giving you something more to enjoy with mining gameplay. So when we left mining, we thought it was already in a good state. So even introducing with the mining gadget, we introduced from our perspective, a nice little different approach on mining. So you have to leave your ship, attach the mining gadget to the rock, then get back into the ship and then do your mining procedure. And we also thought that it will help with difficulty, so that especially new players can buy a mining gadget to bring down resistances of the rock drastically, so they have an easier mining experience. What we didn't have in mind is that we also have to facilitate expert miners that still need a challenge there. So what we tackled is a general balancing pass. That is, we adjusted all the items, all mineable heads, all mining heads, all sub-items that you attach to the mining head, the mining gadgets, everything now has different values. We cleaned it up drastically, so it is now clearer what are the positives of what mining head, what are the positives of a sub-item, what are the positives of a mining gadget, and what are the negatives that come with it. And this is more important now because we also touched the minables themselves. So all the minables that you find now have different values in terms of their resistance, in terms of their instability. So what we try to do is match certain mining heads with certain materials or resources that you find. So you will have mining heads that go better with, for example, aluminum, and others that might go better with iron. And this directly leads to the next thing. So we introduced finally iron, and iron is a ship exclusive mineable for now. We also introduced some new resources like Genelite. Genelite is exclusively found in caves, and it's only mineable with FPS. And the reason why we wanted to introduce that is that, like, from the data that we gather from all of you playing, is no one uses FPS mining as a game mechanic outside of the prison. So we wanted to make it more attractive to players to use a multi-tool with a mining attachment other than just having it attached because you found it. So right now we want you to try out the new caves, find the new mineable, and I can guarantee you that it is really profitable to bring that with you. It's not as profitable as the mining as a profession, because if it's your day-to-day job, but it's like a nice golden nugget that you can find on your exploration tool. So next time you are in the caves, better bring a mining attachment with your multi-tool. We additionally cleaned up the way that resources are distributed throughout Stanton. And this is because we want to make resource gathering future-proof. With the introduction of crafting that will come further down the road, with its first implementation with the hull scraping gameplay, so you already got a glimpse of it. But what is important there is that we get a better control of where to find certain materials. And also, from our perspective, it's more interesting for players to know where they have to go to find certain material types. So what we did is we defined standard materials and quality or like rarity-based materials. Standard materials are something like copper, like iron, like something that you know from real life is used in basically every item that you find around. And those have distinct locations now within Stanton. For example, aluminum you can only find around Crusader, where copper you can only find around Microtech, which, so as a disclaimer, this can change during our development, but just to give you an idea that we now have distinct location where you can find these defined standard materials. That doesn't mean that you cannot find the standard materials elsewhere. There are chances of you finding them elsewhere, especially asteroid belts get more attractive because they have a more diverse spectrum of materials. But on the planet side, like you know from Earth, we just have very distinct locations where you can find those rare earths. And what we also introduced is that each of the standard material always have certain more rare or rarer materials associated with them. So this gives you a glimpse of where we are going, where our intention is to have star systems with exclusive materials that you need for your crafting. So you have to travel to a certain star system to get the material that you need for whatever item you would like to create. There are two more things that we updated. So one thing that we noticed is that mining is a difficult profession. And we want to make the obstacle less threatening for new players. And that means that we improved our mining UI a little.
The old mining UI was one of the most developed UIs in the game. It was one of the most readable already. But we discovered some improvements we could add to it to make it more enjoyable to the players. But we had like some slight issues with, you could say clutter, basically, with the center part of the screen with too many elements flashing. So for the next update, we moved some elements together. For example, we moved the mining throttle next to the power charge of the asteroid, since those two elements are semantically related. We've added a range bar to the left with all the ranges you need to keep in mind, like scanning, blast radius, and mining range of your head. We shuffled less relevant UI elements to the bottom of the screen to clear up space on the center part and on what you are looking at. We've also changed the display of scanning to make it less disruptive to the mining experience, and we've improved a little on a bunch of things like color and element positions within each card of the screen to make it more readable.
So now it is easier for you to see what distance you have to keep from the rock, what dangers you encounter on the rock, how your mining head actually is set up right now, and all the parameters that you need to know if the rock that you are targeting is actually mineable. For that, we even added a little helper that basically tells you, hey, it is very doable, it's an easy mining approach, it's a challenging mining approach, or it's an impossible one. Because now there will be impossible one. And this is where our last change for this update comes in, which is multi-crew mining. We thought that the size of the rocks and the power it required for multiplayer mining was sufficient, but especially with the mining gadgets, you could bring down the resistance so much that like multi-crew mining wasn't as needed anymore as we actually intended. And that's the benefit of having a game in a live environment where you, as the community, create videos, create reviews, post like comments on the spectrum that you are basically not as satisfied with the gameplay as you would like to be. And this is now our opportunity, and we saw the need in it to make it even more future-proof for all the upcoming systems. So we wanted to encourage players using the mole in a cooperative environment. And what we think lore-wise was that what makes sense and was an easy win for us was that because you are sharing one system, one computer on your mole, you basically have a way to synchronize your mining lasers. And by that, you get the benefit while sitting in a mole to decrease the instability of the targeted rock drastically. So if you compare this with a prospector hitting the same rock with, like if you have 3 prospectors hitting the same rock, you will get a punishment basically in terms of instability. So we wanted to make sure that it's still solvable. If you are an expert miner, you can counter the instability there. But it's more effort that you have to put into it compared to a mole, where with you have a high instability rock and you have 2 friends or 3 friends, you better pick your mole over the 3 prospectors, because you will have an easier mining experience picking the mole. And there's one more thing that ties in with the difficulty or increase of difficulty that we intended with this update, and that basically brings us back to the resources and the update that we did for the resources. Something we didn't have before, but we will now introduce, is that each resource composition will have an effect on the weight or on the mass of the mineable. So that means there are certain materials that are heavier and therefore harder to crack. So you definitely need to bring friends to be able to crack the stone with the super dense materials in comparison to resources that are less dense and are more porous. So you will have an easier life or easier mining approach with them. This will not make single player mining worthless. It will make it more interesting, for sure, because like we also will update a little bit of the trading, so it is even more valuable, or you get more profit out of even the less rare materials, because of the redistribution of the resources. Suddenly there is a demand at the other side of the universe for aluminum, for example. So you might wonder when this update will be available to you. And I have some good news. So you might have seen the content that we put in this video already. So it is already in a playable state for us, but not only that. Right now we are on a good track to have it inside or have it part of the next major release after our 3.18 patch. We are very confident that it will be in 3.19.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that resources are being redistributed throughout the Stanton system and include new additions to vehicle and FPS minables. That the UI continues to evolve and improve the player experience. And that balancing changes to everything from heads to consumables to gadgets and to the resources themselves means that Alpha 3.19 will bring a thoroughly updated experience to miners when it arrives later this year. Now, as for Alpha 3.18, it's available to all players now in OpenPTU, so don't miss your chance to get in there and bang on the pipes, as it were, to help us get things to a live release. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all here next week.